What do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do after university? What is your next plan? And I was often met with a shrug and some variation of, I don't know, this feeling of like crippling fear of the future. So that really got me thinking, is there a better question I could ask? And isn't that really what you want for your child? One of the biggest questions that came up when we were doing our Future Proof Teens webinar series was, what career should my teen prepare for? What jobs should I be prepping them for the future? What are the jobs of the future? Those are the big questions that came up, and they came up a lot. So I started to do some digging. I asked around, like, how can I find out more about this? And somebody sent me this Future of Jobs report by the World Economic Forum. They did a big research project, and they released this research data in 2023. What the World Economic Forum estimated is that 23% of the world's jobs are going to be in churn in the next 5 years. So what does that mean? So 23% of the jobs will either not exist anymore, or they will be completely new jobs. So we're going to see a 23% change there. And an important note here is that this is structural churn. So it's not driven by personal choice. It's not people saying, I actually want to move across to, that job there, it's a better job. This is driven by technological advancements, shifts in consumer demand, or other big economic policy changes, things like that. So we're going to see a 23% change here, and you can see in this graph, we see jobs lost, stable jobs, and jobs created. So 23% of them are going to change in the next 5 years. That's their prediction. So coming back to that, what career should your teen prepare for? If you think back, things like typists, shorthand writing, those things don't exist anymore. So it's a very difficult thing to predict. And I started thinking about it, and I started to process this and think back to when I was choosing my career. And what I came down to was, is that really the right question to be asking? What career should my teen prepare for? So I'm very passionate about kids and teens and helping them start to think about this question of like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I used to ask this question a lot, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to do after university? When I was younger, when I thought about what do I want to be when I grow up, when people ask me like, what career do I want? What job do I want? And when I was younger, I wanted to be a soldier. But did I really want to be a soldier? I don't think I understood what that meant at that age. I didn't want to go around killing people. That wasn't what I wanted. But when I was around and I saw a soldier, I was like, wow, that guy looks cool. And I was like, okay, I want to be a soldier. So teens and children often don't have enough of a data set. I mean, we don't even have enough of a data set to really answer that question. And what I noticed is when I asked people this question of like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do after university? What is your next plan? I very rarely got a meaningful answer, and I was often met with a shrug and some variation of, I don't know. Not only did it not get a meaningful response, but it was often also met with a very overwhelmed response, this feeling of like crippling fear of the future. So that really got me thinking, is there a better question I could ask? And I think a better question to ask than what you want to be when you grow up is, what impact would you like to make in the world? So what about the world would you like to change? What do you see around you that you don't like, that you'd like to change? Or even what about the world makes you sad or angry? As I started to ask these questions to younger kids, I was actually quite surprised at the responses they came up with and the things they'd already thought about. And actually what I started to notice is that there was much more of a dialogue that started to happen. And even if they didn't originally understand my initial question, as we started to chat, it started to bring up this process of them starting to think like, what about the world can I make a difference on? So Daniel Priestley, in his book, The Key Person of Influence, described the difference between being functional or being vital. And basically what he speaks about there is that we're often trained to be a cog. That's part of a big moving machine. That's often what our school system was designed for. It's often what we hear and see, and even this idea of like what career I'm going to take. It's just thinking of like, where am I going to fit in? But the problem with that is that a cog can be easily replaced, discarded. We really don't actually want our kids to do that. Is that really what you want your kids to be? Replaceable, sort of insignificant. And what we really need here is to bring vitality. So what is vitality? So what we really want is to live a life of vigor and a place where we can make an impact. sort of somebody with vitality, somebody who brings a vital life force, and it's something that only a human can bring. I'm sure you've met somebody like this. They're full of passion, they love what they do, and when they step into a room, when they join a team, when they start a project, big things happen. They shift things, they motivate people, and they just bring this enthusiasm with them. And isn't that really what you want for your child? But how? How do we do this for our kids? How do we help them be more of a vital life force? And how do you avoid them becoming a cog? I think I found the answer, or part of the answer to this, in a TED interview with Dr. Angela Duckworth. She's an educational psychologist and a developmental psychologist. And in that interview, she discussed how we can often look at somebody who's successful, somebody who's made an impact, somebody who's had a successful career and really built something big. And we imagine that they had a clear blueprint. And there we go, they have this successful career and they've done these great things. But that's nearly impossible. And I think she offers a much more useful alternative. I actually really recommend you listen to the whole interview. She speaks about this idea of having a North Star. So what she says there, that you can really only plan 1 to 3 years into the future, especially nowadays. Things are changing so fast. And beyond that, things become totally unpredictable. But it is essential to have a general heading. So we can't just go, okay, normal planning, we're just going to live life. So what is this idea of a North Star? So a North Star is a general direction, something you are passionate about, somewhere where you're trying to navigate. So she says that she's very passionate about brain development and kids, and that was like sort of her global idea. And as she started moving and doing research, she ended up writing the book Grit. She ended up building Character Lab. She informs a lot of my thinking. And then for me, my North Star is to develop entrepreneurs in Africa to improve the African economy from within. And you can see that's a very vague idea. And it sets this general goal that I'm trying to achieve, but doesn't limit me in what I'm doing day to day. So this allows one to make short-term plans that line up with that general direction. If you don't know where you're going, you can't go there. And that seems obvious when we talk about it in like a practical sense, but when you think about it in this way of like, what are they trying to achieve, then it's not as obvious, it doesn't stick out as much. So what we need to do is we need to help our children determine that North Star, and then to clear the fog of the near future and to begin on that path. As they go and they make mistakes and figure things out and do problem solving, they'll get closer and closer to this end goal. And by encouraging this sort of thinking, we introduce agency back into the equation. So I think it really encourages them to start taking steps in that direction and increases the probability that they will live a successful and fulfilled life. And the goal is for them to identify where they're going, what skills are going to get them there, and then for them to take action to grow those skills and to grow that knowledge. So be that through research, doing courses, or even better, like getting mentorships with people, they're more likely to reach that end goal and to develop the skills. And that is how our children avoid becoming a cog in a larger machine that is easily replaced or discarded, but rather become a vital life force that makes the world a better place.